Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. Manchester United and Wolves battle to a 1-1 draw at Old Trafford, but why did Manchester United struggle and how did Wolves pull off another big result against a Manchester side? Don't worry, here at the interviews, we've got you covered. So on this edition of the interviews, we're going to break down how Manchester United and Wolves drew at Old Trafford. So Manchester United lose more ground at the top of the table, whereas Wolves gain another valuable point as they look to attain safety first. And for a side that really lacked multiple goal-scoring options, this was another big result for them. In today's video, we're just going to break down the first half and the second half. The first half based on how Wolves found themselves behind despite causing United problems down the right, and the second half into how United tried to change the game after Wolves equalized. But first, let's get to the lineups. We have United in a 4-3-3, Rashford suspended, Matic suspended, so that means that they go with Lukaku, Alexis Sanchez, and Lingard up front. In midfield, we see Fellaini continue with his role in the deepest position, and then we see Pogba and Fred just ahead of him. And then out in wide areas, no real surprises. Lindelof and Smalling stay where they're supposed to be, and then you have Lindelof and Smalling stay where they're supposed to be. Then you have Shaw and you have Valencia out in wider areas. For Wolves, they've stuck with a 3-4-3 throughout the season. That 3-4-3 ends up becoming a 5-4-1 without the ball. And basically what they have here is they have Jimenez up front, they have Jota and Helder Costa outer in the wider areas. In midfield, they go with Joao Moutinho and Ruben Neves. And then you think about the wing-back areas who are really pivotal, Doherty, and they go with Johnny. And at center-back, they have Bennett, they have Bowley, and they have Cody. What they're trying to do, compress the space without the ball, ensure that United can't play between the lines, and then when they push forward, they want their attacking wide players to come in narrow to combine with Jimenez, which can then push the wing-backs forward so that they can get crosses into Jimenez. Here, however, they were very strong in the first half, unlucky to go behind, so we're going to break down the first half and why Wolves excelled against Manchester United. So in the first half, Wolves were dominant, but somehow ended up going into halftime down 1-0. First, we have to get into why Wolves caused Manchester United problems and where the issues lied. First, we start with how Wolves lined up. They were 3-4-3 on paper, but without the ball, they moved into more of a 5-4-1. The wingbacks tucked in narrow. The wider players in Costa and Jota tucked in narrow. And basically against United's 4-3-3, they lined up pretty well because you have Lukaku against the back three. You have Sanchez and Lingard who want to cut in. They're not direct wingers, so they're not looking to really play crosses in. So you have Doherty and you have Johnny stepping to them. If Lingard wants to cut in more central, you could push Baldy there and still have 2v1 against Lukaku. You know Sanchez wants to cut in as well. In midfield, Moutinho and Neves offered a combination of tenacity and great passing skills. So they pressed Fred and Pogba whenever they could, led to some bookings, but they were ensured that they couldn't dictate the center of the pitch, and they were the dominant midfield duo. And then out in wide areas, Luke Shaw and Valencia, whenever they looked to get forward, they had Costa, they had Jota pressing, ensuring that they weren't able to push forward easily. Wolves were very tight. They had Fellaini, who was deeper. They had Jimenez sitting on him, so again, he struggled in the opening stages, but to counter that, what happened is that United ended up dropping into a back five when they didn't have the ball, and that was to ensure that Jimenez didn't win aerial duels or didn't isolate Smalling and Lindelof, who have been exposed in the past against players that are very strong in the air. So that was United's way of trying to stop Jimenez for the opening stages of the first half. So that's how Wolves were really looking to get at United, and they did a very good job. United struggled to create chances throughout the first half. They couldn't get in behind. They couldn't really get into midfield unless they won individual battles, and they struggled in that regard, and Wolves were very comfortable without the ball. United, however, Luke Shaw often was narrow, but when he did push forward, that is where Wolves were able to pounce. We saw Jimenez pushing into that space whenever he could. If Jimenez pushed into that space, there was one time where he did, drifted over, delivered a cross into the box, Smalling cleared it. We had Costa constantly bombing into that space. There was one time where he bombed past Shaw after his cross was cleared. pushed into that space, got past Lindelof, who did come over to try and cover, because whenever Shaw pushed forward, Lindelof tucked into that left space to try and cover for him, pushed past him with ease, and then you had Fellaini coming over to ensure that his cross was blocked. But then again, you had Doherty pushing over as well, and that was another problem that United had. But for the most part, Wolves were really getting at the fact that Shaw couldn't get forward, and they were getting at him individually as well. You look at Fellaini losing the ball in the opening stages. The ball is cycled through Neves, Moutinho, and Costa out to Doherty, who breaks forward. Doherty delivers a cross into the box. Jimenez breaks in as well. Smalling clears it, and that was out for a corner. We look at another opportunity. We see Neves. And this is often what Neves did. He dropped deeper into that space right here in the left channel, looked to clip diagonals out into the flanks. The first time he saw Doherty making the diagonal run, which allowed Costa to go 1v1 with Shaw. He was able to cut outside, he was able to deliver a cross into the box. What happens now is that Jimenez is able to hold up Smalling and Fellaini, turn and force De Gea into a save. There was another time where it was sort of on the break, and Neves again tried to find that pass, and it was Shaw and Costa breaking for it, but Shaw was able to cover that as well. And again, later on in the half, another time where he tried to play out a deep diagonal ball to Doherty, who pushed out. Doherty saw Jimenez dropping off, combined with him, who dragged out a defender. Doherty tries to continue his run, but what we see there is Shaw able to cover that space. Shaw did have decent moments in the first half, but there was also times where he was culpable to mistakes. He was booked for losing he wins the aerial duel, knocks it off Costa, and then Costa's able to break in, he pulls him back. So it wasn't really a good half for Luke Shaw. He struggled. Wolves were constantly hammering down that flank, but it didn't really help that Doherty was able to push forward because Alexis Sanchez wasn't willing to get out into that space. So even if Pogba or Fred shifted over, it would leave Moutinho or Neves forward, and they were able to break forward as well as they were free. So when you think about it as a whole, Wolves always had somewhat of that advantage. Jimenez was doing well to drop deeper and always linking play. He was never really losing the ball in that regard. Fellaini ensured that he wasn't offering a main threat in the box, but outside of the box, he was pulling markers out, linking play with his teammates, allowing them to push forward, and United were struggling to cope with that. But again, when you think about it, they were unable to really pounce on their chances. That one Jimenez chance that led to a De Gea save was key. They caused United a few issues via set pieces where they probably should have scored, but De Gea also made another key save. So United were comfortable in that regard, where they were struggling down by Shaw, but Wolves still weren't creating enough chances away from home. Moutinho and Neves were ensuring that they were dominating the game. Jota was breaking forward, but could never really offer a threat in the final third. He was popping up into pockets of spaces, retaining possession well. But what it was really down to is that United were able to hit them against the run of play. They were able to take the lead, and how does that happen? Well, we have Wolves here in a 4-5-1. Or 5-4-1. What we often saw was Fred being able to shift the ball out wide. And what happens here is that when he shifts it out wide and Shaw did push forward, Alexis would push on to Bennett. We saw him shift it out there. What happens? He runs at Doherty, plays it into Alexis, who's able to just get a yard off. The cross is cleared, and it falls to Pogba, who's able to get the ball around Neves, and it falls to Fred, who instantly fires a shot on goal. Fred again was able to get that ball. This time was Alexis who dropped out. He clipped it out to him. Alexis was able to skip past Moutinho. He was able to play the 1-2 with Lukaku to bypass Bennett, get it back, and then try to play it back to Lukaku, but it was cleared. But when you think about it as a whole, Wolves, their shape was superb. Like I said, Pogba couldn't really get forward. There were times where he tried to drop into that space between the lines to get onto the ball, but as they shifted, Moutinho ensured that he was covering and blocking off that space, and if he really wanted to get forward, well, what happened was that they would have a center back step to him. So United struggled in that regard. They had the few chances there. Fred forced Rui Patricio into a save from a free kick, but it was Wolves who were finding a lot of joy in behind the space of Luke Shaw, and if United didn't change that in the second half, then it looked like they were going to concede a goal. So the second half was about how United would be able to change the game to ensure that they could ride it out and gain 3 points. Unfortunately for Manchester United, the second half didn't really change much. They did have a few chances, Pogba playing in Lukaku in behind, and then he fired a shot off the defender. And we did see Fellaini break forward and play across through the box. That evaded everyone. But Wolves still had that threat down that left-hand side. We saw it in the opening minutes. Ball shifted out to Costa. He's breaking forward. Doherty's running into space. No Alexis Sanchez following him, but he played it behind Doherty. That was a wasted opportunity. Then we saw another chance where Moutinho had won the ball in midfield, and he slides the ball between Alexis and Pogba for Doherty, but his final ball into Jimenez was poor. United were struggling down that side. There was no protection, and then it continued. We saw Shaw eventually stepped to Costa. We saw Doherty play a ball over the top behind the space of Shaw to see Lindelof get dragged out by Jimenez. What happens here is that Yanni makes a run in behind. No one catches it. First time cross. He's breaking in. Valencia sees it late and he's able to recover. But again, the warning signs. Jimenez pushing into that space. Doherty and Costa spilling into that space. We saw Neves win the ball off Fred on two separate occasions, and then we see the build-up to the goal. It's Pogba trying to outwit Neves. He loses the ball. He's dispossessed. We see Jimenez running at Lindelof. What happens is that he prefers to slide it over to Costa, who takes on Shaw. What does he do? He beats Shaw. Cuts outside. Jimenez continues into the box, who ends up dragging out Smalling. And what happens there? He ends up to tee up Moutinho, who curls a superb effort into the top corner. Wolves worthy of the goal. They were getting better as the half was going on. And again, we still saw more from them as it progressed. Jimenez on two separate occasions. The first time he's able to get the ball, and he's able to slide in Costa into space between Lindelof and Shaw, but he curls his effort wide. Then he holds the ball up well, links play with him. He's able to evade challenges before he's fouled. Wolves were in full control. Mourinho had to make changes because, like I said, they weren't finding anything in behind. Jimenez was posing a threat. They were still beating Shaw. The combination of Neves and Moutinho was spectacular. Neves was breaking up play. He eventually got booked for taking out Pogba, but he was looking to play the forward passes. Moutinho was looking to play the sideways passes and still playing a forward pass and then looking to get forward and continue the play. They were superb in midfield. Fred and Pogba had no answers. So what did Mourinho do? He turned to Martial. He turned to Mata. Mata moved out wide. Lingard moved in behind. Lingard moved closer. And then what happened there was that Martial moved to the left. So what happened is now, where do you go from there if you're United? You have Martial trying to cut in. He's not really looking to offer much of a threat. He did tee up Lingard on two separate occasions. One time delivering a cross into the box, and he nodded his effort wide. The second time teeing him up at the edge of the box, and he's able to fire his shot on goal that Patricio pushes over, but they weren't really offering much, and it was the same issue. Getting narrow, not being able to find space in between those Wolves bank of midfield four. There was nothing really going for them. Mata was looking to drive into that space, but offering no real threat. They ended up bringing on Andreas Pereira, and they moved to more of a 4-2-3-1, where they had Fellaini closer to Lukaku, but again, crosses into the box. Nothing was really going for them. Their best opportunity stemmed from Shaw combining with Lukaku, and he's not closed down, and Fellaini meets it at the back post, but he nods his effort at Patricio tamely. But again, nothing really going for United. Pereira and Pogba were deeper, but they couldn't get anything into Lukaku, who didn't really vary his movement, didn't really drop deeper and look to get runners in behind. Just looked isolated, waiting for service that wasn't coming. Wolves obviously made their changes. They brought on Gibbs White. They brought on Sez for Moutinho. They They brought on Traore, and he was the biggest threat as the game progressed. And he had 3 golden opportunities within the final 5 minutes, breaking into that space behind Luke Shaw, driving forward, firing tame effort at De Gea, wasting a 3v2, curling his effort over the net. But when you break the game down as a whole, United never really looked like they were going to stop this Wolves side. They didn't create enough chances. A lot of their play was in front of the Wolves' back 5. They couldn't find anything in between the back 5 and the midfield 4. Lukaku was isolated, like I said. Martial, Mata didn't work out. Lingard, Alexis weren't any better. And then you think about Wolves, Jimenez linking play, finding space behind Luke Shaw, Moutinho and Neves offering the combination of tenacity, physicality, creativity, control. They dominated the center of the pitch, and the back 5 were comfortable. They did their diligent work without the ball. The back 3 were uncomfortable in terms of when Lukaku came in, when Lingard came in, when Martial tucked in. They were comfortable, and Patricio made some big saves, and Wolves once again were full value for a point, whereas Manchester United lose pace on perhaps Chelsea and most definitely Manchester City and Liverpool. But let me know what you guys think. What can Manchester United do to create more chances? And what about Wolves? They lack goal scoring threats, but with this midfield, can they finish in the top half? Meet me in the comments below. Don't forget I upload videos every day, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And that was your daily dose of the interviews.